It's been a long time coming, but the Arctic Winter Games are finally upon us. In a few short weeks, athletes will be coming into our region and ready to play in a variety of sports. And today I have Eden from the Arctic Winter Games with me to talk all things games. So thank you, Eden, for joining me today.
Not a problem. Excited to be here.
Let's get started simply with, when did the games come about? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a long time coming. We originally started with a 2022 date, so for March 2022. But unfortunately, like every other event across the world with COVID, we did have a postponement. And we are excited for full speed ahead for 2023 as we begin to welcome the circumpolar north to Wood Buffalo.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about the circumpolar north. Who encompasses that?
Absolutely. So if you took the globe and you flipped it on its head towards the Arctic, it's pretty much the circumpolar north of the 55th parallel on the globe.
Okay.
With the exception for these games of Russia, which would have been Yamal. So they won't be competing at these games. But we will see contingents from Greenland, Alaska. We'll also see, of course, the Northwest Territories in Canada, also Yukon, Team Nunavut, Team Alberta North, which will be the home team, which will be us, also Nunavik, which is the northern part of Quebec. And we will also have the Sápmi people from northern Finland, Sweden, and Norway.
Wow, so a very diverse group of athletes coming to our region.
Absolutely. So it's going to be really great to give them, even for our international contingents, a Canadian experience, but also to just showcase the region.
I'm assuming with such a broad group of people that there are going to be many cultural type events that we're going to be working on. So maybe we could touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, so a key pillar of the games is cultural exchange.
Okay.
So every contingent brings cultural delegates. So actually, strategically, the international committee doesn't call the participants athletes.
Okay.
They call them participants, so that it includes the cultural delegates. So each area will bring a cultural delegate to perform at the cultural gala. They will also perform in pop-up performances across the region at all the venues that we are taking part at as well. So you can see many different things. Actually, I know Team Nunavik is working on some really cool cirque mixed with indigenous components, and then you'll get to see there might be throat singers in there, a few different things that you wouldn't see here, but also we will have a team representing Team Alberta North from the Wood Buffalo region as well. So that is a huge part of these games, and that cultural exchange element is very important to the Arctics because the Arctics are developed to, share the cultures and traditions of the circumpolar north while kind of, fusing them with more modern sports. So you'll actually see sports like Arctic sports and Dene games. So Arctic sports are traditional Inuit sports,
Right.
and Dene games are traditional First Nation Dene games. So they will be highlighted. They'll be at McDonald Island Park. They're two of the major events that this games likes to carry on the legacy for.
So what would those events be?
Yeah, so Dene games are very tactical and skill-based building games. So you'll see a stick pull, which simulates catching fish.
Right.
So it's actually a stick that is greased, and then you have to have kind of like the perfect touch on it to be able to win and pull it over to your side.
Okay.
And then there's other games and hand games and Dene games. And then when we look at Arctic sports, it's more agility based.
Okay.
So you'll have things that test your endurance of actually pain, which is knuckle hop. So you do pretty much like a push-up and you hop with your knuckles. And it's not a speed test. It's an endurance test.
Right.
So it's a distance test. But also they do have high kick, which has you kick up in the air in a certain technique to build your ability to there as well. So they're quite agile, the Arctic sports. And then the Dene games have a lot of tradition behind them.
Okay, and then participants will also be competing in a variety of
more modern
sports?
mainstream sports. Like, of course, you'll see hockey, and then we'll have basketball, volleyball. A big one internationally is actually futsal. So you'll see a lot of traction around that, a lot of media around that as well. I hear it's very big in some other countries that are coming here. So futsal is indoor soccer for those who don't know. Well, I'm going to get in trouble for that because it's not indoor soccer, but it's the best way to describe it to the public. It is not. There are other rules. I apologize right now, but for those listening, trying to wonder what it is, that's the best picture I can paint for you.
Okay. And I assume there are many, many participants coming. How many are we expecting to the region?
Yeah, so we are expecting approximately 2,000, but that would include technical officials, chaperones, and coaches as well. But 2,000, including the athletes and, of course, the cultural delegates. So it'll be great. They also, very interesting with this games is they have private charters coming from their countries too, a lot of them. Yeah, so we did have to work a lot with the airport to make sure that the region is ready to welcome them there as well, and to accommodate their flights and their planes that will be landing here. So that was definitely a different element for this games to make sure in preparation operationally.
With 2,000 participants, I assume that means that you're going to need a lot of volunteers to be able to make this possible.
Yeah, just as many volunteers as participants, pretty much. So we have a big undertaking for these games. We are throwing like approximately 20 sporting competitions simultaneously across a week, but also an opening ceremonies, a closing ceremonies, a 2-day event on the SNI called Shine on the SNI, and also, just all of these pop-up performances and different activations throughout the region during these games. So it literally will take a village to make these games possible. Anything from broadcasting, operating a camera, to being the mascot, to supporting the mascot as a handler, to, I get really selfish and start announcing the things under my portfolio to try to fill those roles. But there's also security, medical, anything you can imagine, warehousing support, signage sorting support, install.
So basically a position for pretty much anybody's tastes.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, we can make accommodations for anybody who may need them as well. We want everybody to volunteer. So we do have some accessibility support too as well.
So what is the process to become a volunteer for the games?
So you have to go to the website and register through our GEMS, which is the games management operations system that we use to register volunteers. You will need to register online. Then you will get a follow-up email, and you will need to get a criminal record check. Then after that, you'll be accepted into the system, and you can start scheduling for shifts. What's really cool about volunteering is we have these great volunteer uniforms that are very nice. So the volunteer programs supported by AGCO, and then Carbon is one of our other great sponsors who has helped us get this amazing volunteer kit for everybody with an actual outdoor winter jacket and then a nice performance long sleeve. So 2 shifts and you can get the volunteer uniform.
So is there a minimum age requirement in order to be able to volunteer?
So volunteers between the age of 13 and 17 can volunteer with parental consent and supervision. I do believe our volunteer program manager is working on programs that provide supervision. So more information on that should be to come for those who register in that age category. Anybody 18 and older, of course, can volunteer freely.
So the week of the games, what can we expect here in the region?
Well, we are doing a region-wide torch relay. So we will be going to every community within the region with the torch, and then we will be tracking its progression through video, and we will actually bring it into opening ceremonies with a video that shows it making its progression across the region to light the cauldron at opening ceremonies. So those are the major things to be in the lookout for is the torch relay. The torch relay in Fort McMurray will be the 28th of January, and then for the rural hamlets, they will start beginning the January 11th is when the first one will take place, and then they're kind of scattered throughout the weeks as we build our way up to the games. The opening ceremonies is you don't want to miss it. We will actually be welcoming the Hallucination. They're formerly known as a Tribe Called Red, a very, very popular DJ Indigenous fusion group. We're so excited to bring them to opening ceremonies and let everybody here experience them in the region. So opening ceremonies presented by Boutilier, but we also want to thank Fort McKay First Nation for collaborating on bringing them here as well. So that will be be a big show. You don't want to miss it. That will take place at the Legacy Dodge baseball field at Shell Place. Tickets are on sale now. I would get them quick because it will be pretty popular, especially as participants and contingents, parents and families, and everybody starts, deciding what their plan is for games time. Then into the Monday, we will be hosting Shine on the Sny, presented by Athabasca Tribal Council. So this will be a very exciting night sky teaching based, but leaning into the Northern Lights as well, event, cultural, that is down on the Sny with lots of programming, a DJ, lots of Indigenous traditional programming, as well as some modern fusion and crafts and arts, and dog sledding. So that would be very exciting to get involved in. That is a 2-night event happening on the Monday and Tuesday of the games. So then, of course, all of the regular sport competition is happening during this time. But also on the Monday, there will be a hockey game for Team Alaska and Team Alberta North in Conklin. So there will be a field trip for Janvier to head out and watch the game in Conklin as well. And we'll also bring our cultural delegates to Conklin for a performance during that time too. Then the next day we're still not past Tuesday.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Then the next day we can go to Fort Chipewyan. We're doing a volleyball clinic there, followed by a community gathering for a showcase of the cultural performers and a meal. So that will be a nice, exciting one for Fort Chipewyan. Then we have a nice quiet day on Wednesday. You can catch some sports.
Just one.
Yeah. And then we're still on Tuesday, we are throwing a traditional feast for our cultural delegates and our Arctic Sports and Denny Games participants. So that will be a nice collaboration within the region to kind of welcome them and have a nice traditional feast to sort of open the games. It is the second day of competition for them, I believe, but it will just be a nice community gathering to welcome, the traditional sport athletes. And then we will go into on Thursday and Friday, we will have the cultural gala performances. So all of the cultural delegates that we spoke of will get together. They will create this amazing performance, and they'll perform it twice. So tickets for both the Thursday and the Friday are the same show.
Okay.
Yeah. But they will create a show. They'll work together. They'll have a choreographed part.
So when they arrive here, they're all just going to come together and create some magic?
Exactly.
Oh, very cool.
So they have their own performances and segments, but then they have to turn it into a cohesive show that everything works together.
Cool.
Yeah. So we are working with a local artistic director on that as well. So it's quite an interesting component, and I would really highly recommend checking out the cultural galas. It'll be an experience.
And where are the cultural galas taking place?
Keano Theater.
Oh.
Yeah. So you do have to get the tickets through Keano Theater box office.
Okay.
They're the only tickets that aren't available through our website.
Okay.
So you do take a look at that. They'll be amazing. It'll be a great night. And then that leads us into Saturday, which is closing ceremonies. So definitely join us for that as well. Closing ceremonies presented by Finning. It's going to be a really good time.
Awesome. I was passing Keam Park the other day, and I happened to see your lovely little office right next door. And it looks as though you've got a lot of goodies in there. What's going on?
Absolutely. So we have launched our merchandise store both online for click and collect or regional, national, or international shipping.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so it's definitely super accessible. But you can come in. We're open from Wednesday to Saturday. The times kind of vary, so you can go online and figure out the times there. But we have everything from the latest trends like tumblers and color block hoodies, to the classics like the quarter zips. There's no better way to represent the games than to show your spirit and wear some games merchandise. It's been such an awesome experience to make it and create it and be involved in that kind of technical level. We did a lot of work to make sure that the pricing was great and accessible for everybody compared to, typical merchandise. So we are thrilled to share it with not only the participants and everybody visiting, but also the region, so you can walk around with some swag that says Wood Buffalo on it.
I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from our conversation today is truly how regional of an event this will be, and how many people have had to come together to make sure that this happens.
It is everybody's games. It takes every organization in this community, to support and make it happen. It takes every person, to volunteer, or even just a warm welcome when we start welcoming everybody, when you could look up traditional languages of different people and just try to make people feel at home. And it really is our time to shine as a region, but it's our time to shine as a host too as well. So just, welcoming everybody that is going to be here and giving them the best experience so that they leave this community with the best things to say about even the quality of event we throw, to the hospitality that we have, and just to the opportunity that we have here as a region. I think, that is more important to us in the community and the games than kind of anything really. It's kind of putting our best foot forward and welcoming these participants. And for some of these participants, this is like their Olympic level competition. Right. This is their standard. This is the highest. Will be the highlight of their sport career. And we have a really unique opportunity to be involved in those memories.
So I hope that residents take some time to get out and enjoy the games, whether it's a sport that, you're just a diehard fan of, or maybe you find a love for a new sport. So where can people go to get more information?
Yeah, so we are very active on social media. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. But you can get the most in all of our information at awg2023.org. You can find everything you need to know there, and always reach out to us. We're very responsive. We're just very excited to have everybody a part of these games.
Eden, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.